We're live?
We are
We are.
live and recording.
Awesome. Well, guys, what's up? This is another awesome day here. Another great week for ATDCFL in the chapter. I'm Alex Salas, your president for the next 6 months. And I'm very excited that we're going to be doing some great things. I'm just going to be talking a few minutes here because we have the awesome Lisa Ann Soldi with us. And she is your digital encounter queen. So official title. So my pleasure to talk to you guys, and thank you for popping up, Jennifer, Elizabeth, Todd. It means a lot that you guys are committed and you're always supporting us in the webinars. So really excited about that. I just want to make a quick announcement that we're planning. I'm planning a few things with Zizo Aku, who's our president-elect, to bring in some more resources and digital resources for you. Probably going to be running some workshops myself for e-learning design and instructional design. So look forward for that. And that's what I wanted to say. And we'll have more information coming to you through emails. And outside of that, I wish everybody a safe time, a time to, I know if you lost your job, we got your back. Let us know what you need. We would like to help in any way we can. And if you can help others, let us know as well. One critical thing the chapter will need will be volunteers, will be folks like us that can help keep things running. So if you're interested in helping, if there's any way you can help or anything or anyone you know that would like to help, it's a great opportunity for someone that say that is in transition. And it's also a great opportunity for anyone that wants to give back to the community. So that's all for me. Lisanne, take it away.
All right. Thank you so much, Alex. So as Alex introduced me, my name is Lisa Anzoldi, and I am your VP of Communications at ATDCFL. We have a wonderful speaker today, but before I introduce him, I do want to share my screen and show you some stuff going on in our chapter. So let's take a look. All right, so the first thing here is our blog. I want to point out this blog is updated every month. I'm going to be getting out the May blog in just a couple of days, but the blog does tell you everything you need to know that's going on in the chapter, and it's a nice little recap to keep you updated. I personally am attached to that because I write it, so just saying. And then we have our events going on. I'm sorry, let's go back a second. In our blog, there is a survey that went out to members. It is a 1-question survey, and it's just asking you what kind of digital encounters you want to see. What's important to you? What do you want to learn about as members? So if you have not yet done this 1-question survey, can you please do so? I will drop it in the chat window. So you can just click on it and it takes 1 second to do. I'd appreciate that. And the other thing I'd like to point out is our event calendar. And that's where we put everything on our website related to our upcoming events. Mostly they're digital encounters right now until we can do more face-to-face. But if you see on there, we have quite a few things coming up. We have an ATD Central Florida networking event, virtual networking event, coming up on June 11th. And we also have another webinar coming up on June 24th. That was just added this morning. And next month, we have another one on MacGyver, your training. And we are getting more added as we go. So it will be filling up pretty quickly. So look out for that. And then, of course, if you don't already know, we have our ATD CFL YouTube channel. And Alex, our president, hosts the Off the Cuff episodes, which are all on there, and they make for a really good view. So check that out if you haven't done that. Okay, I'm going to stop my share right now. So the way this is going to work today is I'm going to introduce our wonderful speaker. And then if you have questions, you can drop it in the chat window, or you could unmute your mic and come off of there if you choose. And we will leave some time for questions and answers and we could stop during the way to answer those questions. Towards the very end, I am going to be dropping a survey at the end. If you please could take a moment to fill that out, just letting us know about your experience today and how this webinar met your needs. We'd really appreciate that feedback. All right, so without further ado, hang on one second, Roger. I'm just going to stop your share for one second.
So sorry. I was trying to
No
be
worries.
trying to be efficient. Let me hit stop share. Sorry about that.
That would be no problem.
Sorry about that.
I want to make sure I do you justice in this introduction. So I want to make sure I'm saying this right. So have you ever seen a product manager train salespeople by reading 88 PowerPoint slides filled with 10 words, filled with words in 10-point type? If so, you're in the right place. Our speaker today is on a mission to fix that problem. He's improved sales training and sales results at companies like GE, Synchrony, Underwriters Laboratories, NIIT, and Wells Fargo. He's an expert in sales communications. And prior to forming Grannis Group in 2004, he worked at Gartner for 17 years, helping grow revenues from $22 million to $850 million by building Gartner Sales University. He also hosted the podcast Talking Technology and emceed conferences with business leaders such as Steve Ballmer, the CEO of Microsoft. This man is the president of the National Speakers Association, New England chapter. He's a family man and he loves the outdoors. And he was just sharing with me how he and his son have been backpacking, and they've done that for more than 1,000 miles together. That's pretty cool. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Roger Grannis.
Thank you, Lisa. And you've got a career on the Tonight Show as the announcer. Well done.
Thank you, Roger.
And any of us can sound good in an intro. And Alex, thank you as well for the effort to have me here. And Alex was asking me earlier if my background is real or fake. It's kind of both. If those are real books, have I read all of them? I'm not sure. I'm not sure it accurately reflects who I am. I'm actually a fun joker person, and I'm afraid these books make me look a little bit too serious. I just realized the title of this for the Central Florida chapter of ATD is Selling to the Seller, not Sales Enablement. Some ATD chapters prefer Sales Enablement, that title, and I neglected to change it for you all, but everything is customized and focused for you. And I would love to make this interactive. We've got a great group, a small group of people, and I love nothing more than to help people understand information. I do not like wasting people's time or boring them. So please, I've got my eye on the chat box. Lisa Ann is keeping an eye out as well. So if you've got questions or you want me to speed up, please, let's make this a joint ownership program. There I am, Roger Grannis. I want to just give you my background a little bit because it sets the stage for why I care so much about this topic. So I grew up in a conservative family in the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm actually a fourth generation Californian. I now live in Connecticut. And I really wanted to pursue something creative. So after going to a college, my parents approved and certified, I said, adios amigos, now it's Roger time. So I moved from Oregon back to San Francisco. I went to San Francisco State. I studied theater, did a lot of local theater. I had actually been in radio in Oregon for a while, and did some comedy. The San Francisco Comedy Competition. I came in the bottom 10%. But I did it, something I wanted to do. And after kind of not making a lot of money, my parents said, hey, get a job, folks. You're out of the house. It's time to get real. So I took reluctantly their advice and went into sales. So my first sales job was in Berkeley, California. If you know, Berkeley's kind of a creative, loose environment, kind of like the theater people I had been hanging around with. So it was kind of an easy transition to business, hanging out with smart, creative people. So Adam Osborne in the early 80s invented the first portable computer. It was 22 pounds. he made the money to start that company with a publishing company called Osborne Publishing that he later sold to McGraw-Hill. So I was a sales rep selling computer books over the phone and traveling up and down the East Coast. So here's what I want you to pay attention to. The purpose of these books was to simplify complex information. The information that Apple published was too jargon filled and whatnot. So we as learning and development professionals know we've got to make content simple, easy, and clear for our audiences. And that's what our authors did. Then I moved back to Connecticut in late 80s, and I worked for a company called Gartner. If you don't know Gartner, it is the world's leading technology research and advisory company based in Connecticut. When I joined, they were 25 million. Through growth and acquisitions, they're about $4 billion today. Their mission was similar to what I had been doing in California: simplify complex information for a technical audience. So here I am in sales, listening to all these technical experts, many times saying things I did not understand, and nor did my colleagues in sales understand. Here is the problem. This is what I noticed at Osborne, at Gartner, and GE, and Underwriters Laboratories. This is the problem we're trying to fix. Product training is like this. A product manager will come in, they'll do an information dump. They will bore us with tech talk. It's pure lecture. It was often prepared at the last minute, just a PowerPoint pulled out over breakfast that morning. It's slanted toward the wrong audience, and they think that just giving us an hour lecture is enough. We as learning professionals know this list is full of mistakes that can be fixed. This is how the salespeople felt after the training. Something's burning, and I think it's my brain. Maybe you relate to this. In fact, let's go to our first polling question, if we can pull that up. As we're getting that prepared, I'm going to read it. So in my career, I have observed product managers or subject matter experts deliver product training content or product training to salespeople in this fashion, that list that I just covered. Have you seen it? You know, information overload, prepared at the last minute, and so forth. Have you seen that quite often? 40 to 60% of the time, sometimes never, or I don't really relate to this. I don't work with product managers or salespeople. You could pop in your responses.
Excellent. Couple more seconds, and then we're going to end the poll. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. We're going to end the poll. Let's see our results.
Survey says. Okay, so quite often, about a third, and some of the time, so 66% of you, so that's 2.5 people, have seen it. So yes, the problem is there. With the other ATD chapter that I delivered this to, and by the way, this is hot off the press. The survey just closed last Friday, so we're just day 3 into this. They matched my results that came in the survey exactly. So let's see what we got there. Our survey. Yes. Oh, okay. All right. We're getting to that. So what is, so it's one thing to confuse, bore, overwhelm salespeople, but what happens? And this is where we as learning professionals can really make a difference. We feel pressure to justify ourselves, to show a return on investment. How does this translate to hard dollars? This is one way you can do it. Get involved with some aspect of sales training. They've got budget, and you can show results. You can look at their problem. You can look at what the potential loss is if it's not fixed, and what the gain is. So this is a tough time. One place to look for work is in the area of sales training, sales enablement. It's hot. We know what the cost is. The trust between product leaders and salespeople is lost. We lose time with salespeople fumbling around on calls. A product may not succeed because the training didn't go well, etc. I want to spend less time on the problem and really get to the solution. So when I complained about this at Gartner, they said, great, congratulations, Roger. You are now in charge of sales training. I had actually done some sales training at night back in San Francisco, so I was actually looking forward to it. And of course, I do this out on my own now, helping companies, as we heard in the intro. About a year ago, some colleagues of mine from Gartner and other companies said, Roger, I love what you do. Do you have any data to back up what you're teaching us to do? And I said, well, no, other than my anecdotal experience and years of doing this. And they said, well, it might be a good idea to get some numbers behind it, get some data. Some people need that data to justify their buying decisions. So I did hire the University of Northern Colorado, the Social Research Lab, out of my own pocket to conduct a study. I contacted a lot of colleagues in the field to develop the questions around this central question. How do salespeople learn? We did it in the context of how do they learn about new products, but it's really about how do they learn in general. We've interviewed, we got responses from more than 250 people in these areas: sales enablement, product managers, learning and development folks, and business leaders. We've conducted 20 one-on-one interviews, and most of the industries represented are here. So it's across the board. Again, I want to kind of get to the content that you're waiting for with bated breath. Company sizes, pretty even distribution. It was interesting to see that there were a lot of small companies and large, but a lot in the middle as well. So I think fairly, according to the University of Northern Colorado, Roger, you did good. That's all I care about. We want to do a survey that's valid and legitimate. When I talk about a new product, I don't mean just a hard physical object. It could be a service or a solution, which might be a bundled offering of services, software, what have you. As I mentioned earlier, the lessons here apply to not just product training, but sales training and skill training. And the key thing is, you all know how to design and deliver training. We want to look at what is unique about salespeople and what, from my experience, do I especially need to change or customize for salespeople. As I mentioned, the survey just closed Friday. So the folks out in Colorado need a couple more weeks to crunch and finalize the numbers. They said, we don't want bad numbers or preliminary numbers going out there. So I'm not providing the slides to you. And they said, please write preliminary over all of them. But the results are going to be really close to the final results. One of the first questions we asked is, what percentage of new products are successful? We want to see how big the problem is. Netting it out, half of our people said that half of the time products fail, new products fail. That's a big number. Think about the thousands and millions of dollars that go into designing a product. Then the sales force takes it out to the customers, prospects, and they go, we don't want it. We don't have a need. I mean, hello, big problem. Again, this is an area where you can show specific return on investment. Take a couple of nuggets away from this session today to share with your sales leaders or during interviews, and they will pay attention. We asked what prevents new products from being successful. I mentioned there's no customer need. There are some other reasons, such as we'll get into in a second. But let's look at the no customer need and how did we get this far down the path. Well, from a product manager perspective, this is what we see in the marketplace. The product managers are working in isolation. They love working with their gadgets. My dad was an electrical engineer. He spent a lot of time in the basement inventing gadgets that went on the top of telephone poles. He loved this stuff and would invite me down to the basement to show me his latest inventions. Product managers don't do a good enough job listening to the customers, and especially don't engage the sales force early enough. So when you're on an interview or you're talking to a sales leader, One of the nuggets you could say is, what did you notice about why products fail? And you can say, one of the main reasons is we don't involve the salespeople early enough in the product development stage and not during the training development phase. Other problems, we don't measure the true product potential, the shiny object syndrome. I see this at one of my clients. These are master's degree, PhD people flipping from one product idea to the next. And you've got to like develop a plan and stick to the plan. A colleague of mine that I interviewed last week from formerly of GE said, market research is not customer research. Market research is doing this broad-based survey work, but it's not going out to customers one-on-one and showing them working prototypes and asking if they work or not. That's from the product manager perspective. What about from the Salesforce perspective? This is what I see over and over. Salespeople are not involved in the product development. They're not involved in developing the training. There is no reinforcement, and training is an afterthought. It's a top-down. Folks, sit down in a room for an hour, and you're now going to get trained. That's what I see 30 years after I started doing this. The answer, salespeople need to be involved, inclusive, equal, seat at the table throughout the entire process. Pepsi, one of my interviews with Pepsi, they said products fail because we're involving salespeople too late. So now they are sitting at the table from day one when that idea pops into their head. We want to create a new cold frappuccino or whatever it is. What other tip? Just a general tip, kind of a sneak preview. Salespeople love to learn from other salespeople. They speak their language. Salespeople are really skeptical about information coming from outside the tribe. So they really like to vet it out. And if they see another salesperson endorsing the product or having had some success with, say, a beta version of that product, they are all ears. Salespeople like to learn from salespeople. The other reasons that new products fail, what prevents them from being successful, again, don't want to get into the weeds here, but just a quick touch on this. Business leaders have unrealistic expectations about the length of the sales cycle. They think it's new, it's going to save the world, make their quota, make their number, and they've got unrealistic expectations. Poor marketing, and of course, poor sales training came up on the list as well. Let's go to polling question number 2 to queue up our next section. I'm just checking the chat box. Good. Let me know how we're doing, thumbs up or questions. Here's the question. Have you observed resistance to selling new products in the organizations where you have worked? Have you seen salespeople skeptical or resisting selling the new products? They're hesitant to go on calls with prospects or introduce it to current customers. Have you seen that?
All right, I think we have our answers, and here we go. Here's the results.
Right. See how that matches the other survey? Yes, 33%, sometimes 33%. Consistent with what the survey says and what I see out there. Yep, in fact, the number is almost exact, even with this small, oops, let's see. I think I think I've got to click there. Yeah, look at that. You said 66%. Colorado survey said 67%. Yes, or sometimes. So yes, it's there. Why do salespeople resist? Again, this is an area where you could take a nugget and sound intelligent on a job interview or dealing with an internal sales client. Salespeople tell us it takes less effort to sell an existing proven product. Remember, salespeople want things simple. They want the path of least resistance. They're skeptical of new products. And here's why. They don't want to risk existing customer relationships. What if the new product is bad? That breaks down the trust that the salespeople have spent years developing with their customers. too much pressure to achieve short-term results. These people, the salespeople, have quotas. You all understand a quota. They have to sell a certain amount of revenue in a year. Let's just call it $1 million. That's their annual quota, is to sell $1 million. Many salespeople can pick and choose the product mix to achieve that quota. They're not under any pressure sometimes to sell the new product. They just have to hit the million. So they can do it easily with a proven product with their existing customers. Why take a chance with the new thing? Maybe they don't believe in the new product. 35% said that. Now here's another key thing: insight into the mind of a salesperson. Salespeople fear they won't know enough and will sound unintelligent on sales calls. Let's put it in street language. They fear looking stupid. It's kind of like us when we get up and do public speaking. Big fear sometimes. Salespeople don't want to sound stupid. It's real. If you peel back the veneer of all that you know, the good the good looks, say, and the, you know, polished and grooming the clothes, behind that is fear of not making the number, fear of not sounding intelligent. So after a new product training, imagine, and I've seen this many times, the sales force is flown to your city, Orlando, from all over the world. Big splash, balloons, bands, motivational speakers, and that product training to roll out the new product. This is what I hear in the hallways. Are you going to sell the new product? No way. I've got a quota to make. Sad, but you heard the reasons why they might feel that way. We looked at the flip side too. Why might salespeople be excited about selling new products? Why might they not resist? Well, it does give them something new to discuss with an existing customer. It's a way to reopen the door. Sometimes they want something to talk about, something new and exciting. I interviewed somebody from Goodyear, and you know, a tire is a tire. Oh, we've got new treads. But if there's something new and exciting, the current customers might welcome another sales call because the salesperson legitimately has something new to discuss. New products can give us an edge over the competition. They open the doors to a new buying center. Do you all know what that means? Let's take Gartner as an example. Our buying center, the department we called on was the IT, Information Technology Department. Now Gartner has acquired other companies that have research for sales and marketing. So the new buying center would be the head of sales or the head of marketing. So new products can open those doors, and it's an additional tool to make quota. So it's not all bad news. To summarize what salespeople need: easy and simple, clear. One of the salespeople I interviewed said, "Roger, we need cartoons." What people buy is not just products. They're buying the relationship and the trust of the salesperson. And when the salesperson feels confident, when they exude legitimate confidence, I don't mean that fake stuff, that legitimate, quiet confidence because they believe in the products, new and existing, the buyers respond to that. And so the salespeople want to feel confident and they want to avoid embarrassment. We asked salespeople how often they experience the following in product training. When I say salespeople, it was also product managers. We asked business leaders and so forth. No reinforcement or follow-up. Again, here's a nugget you can use to sound intelligent. I hope that doesn't sound condescending at all. I'm just trying to highlight the things that I, as a past sales leader, would want to hear from a learning and development person or an outside advisor. That one of the best things we can do is to add reinforcement and follow-up to training. Salespeople have experienced training developed at the last minute. We weren't tested for learning. Trainers dazzled the salespeople with new features, but didn't teach how to sell. And all four of these things are outside intelligence that I, as a sales leader, would love to hear. It'll make you sound great and develop that trust that people who are not in the sales tribe need to hear from the outside to let the rest of us into the circle. How do we fix it? We need to convince them, the sales team, the learning and development folks who may own some of that budget, to invest the time and budget to develop the training. Again, you know this stuff. I'm preaching to the choir on these. We want a multi-phase training approach. It's not a one and done. Here's a key. I think teaching, and I've seen really good results with this, where we teach the product managers the sales process. So something we should learn too. What is our sales process? And the principles of training, which you know well. And we want to involve sales throughout the process. So somebody says, what's your recommendation on fixing the problem? Boom, rattle off some of those. What my clients ask me to do, and this is something you could do internally or bring in an outside company to do, it's a three-step approach. One, we do a train the trainer program with the product managers. We get out the crayons, we do some whiteboarding, we give them a template for how to put bucket their information, and we teach the principles of training. This is with the product managers. Then the reason, even if you're doing all the training, if they have some sensitivity to what you need, what we need as learning professionals, they can develop it and get you that content a lot faster. So you're not spending days and weeks interviewing, getting them to translate, at least get them to create a rough draft for you. Then step two is we coach the product managers as they're developing the training modules. We actually have them develop the modules. In many cases, they're going to be the subject matter expert delivering. So as they develop the drafts, we sit down with them one-on-one and say, change this, change that. That's great, and so forth. And I'll show you what content we're asking them to create in a minute. And then we actually produce, as like meeting producers, the training program. We design the training, we may facilitate and MC. Again, things that you all may be doing now. But that three-step approach, I highly recommend. It's what my clients ask for and what's working. And maybe you're doing that in a similar way with training that you're developing for non-sales audiences. So here's the goodies. What information do salespeople need to be successful with new products? Remember earlier I said the content is typically when the subject matter experts have not been exposed to any best practices on how to create and deliver the training, it's typically slanted toward the wrong audience. Let me break that down here. So when we launch a new product, we need to provide information to three different groups of people. One is to prospects. Those are the people we need to entice, we meaning the marketing team probably, to entice prospects, to soften the beach, to get them warmed up to a sales call. The customers need a certain kind of information, and the salespeople need yet a different slant on the same essential content. Here is the problem. Actually, just dropped a slide in last night. It's not just the those three audiences, prospects, customers, and sales. Two other audiences need new product information. One is the plan. What's the business plan? So that would be more of an executive set of content, type of content. And then once the product's out, what's going to be our production process? So the people out in the factory or the engineers or the software folks, they need to have a process for producing the product. So all five audiences need something different. So that's the key. And because training comes last, the people who have been developing the content are tired. They're worn out. They're thinking something they already existed, it will be good enough. Here's what that creates. So the prospects need marketing content. It is delivered in the written word, something that's going to be read and not spoken out loud. Unless it's a TV commercial, then it's the written word. The customers need something along the lines of a user guide. How do I use this product? What happens if it breaks? What are some tips for using it properly, safety and whatnot? Again, that's in a, if you get, you know, when you buy a new chainsaw, you got the book, you're reading the book. Well, I don't read the book, but I still have my fingers, thank God. But that's also delivered to be read. It's the written word. And forgive me, maybe you know this already. Typically when I train the product managers on this, they go, oh, now I get it. The salespeople need something different. They need to know how to engage in a sales dialogue, a sales conversation. They need the script, and that is the spoken word. So I produced and hosted this this podcast at Gartner Talking Technology. I did that 1,000 interviews over 9 years, 100 episodes with multiple segments on each one, lots of custom programs. We would get transcripts of the interviews to help with our editing process. Lisa Ann has done some video editing, so you're very familiar with this. Having the script, having the transcript helps with the editing. So you're not saying, you know, you're not having to remember what the time code is and the exact sentence. You can circle it on the page and cut and paste. Boom. And as I was reading those transcripts, I noticed a big difference between the written word and how it's written and the spoken word. Here are some of the differences. The written word, typically longer sentences. They're more complex sentences, which means commas, more commas. Typically, they use big words and more flowery language. The spoken word, shorter sentences, simple declarative sentences. That means see, spot, run. Jane watered the lawn. So there are no clauses and precursors, or whatever they're called. No commas. Real words, it sounds like real talking. So the trick is this. Rather than creating user guide language in the written word, which is what the product managers are doing today, we need to give the salespeople language, actual words written in the way they would say them, a script in those sales conversations. That is the key difference. It's a subtle difference, but it's a big difference. This is the key. Don't show and tell, teach how to sell. Today, the problem is product managers are doing a show and tell. Look how cool this product is. It's what my father did when he brought me down into the basement. It's what the authors did at Osborne with the book company. It's what the Gartner analysts did. And GE, Underwriters Laboratories, Pepsi, blah, blah, blah. Teach how to sell. Show and tell is giving one product detail after another. Teach how to sell is more or less mapping the content to the steps the salesperson will have to take during the sales call. But there's one key piece to do at the beginning of any sales training, and that is get the salesperson's attention. The salespeople have short attention spans, get bored easily, don't trust a lot of outsiders. Again, I'm oversimplifying. So we need to start with why. Why is this product important? What is the customer need? Who else among my peers believes in this or has had any luck? That has got to be the first step. Then we go into, well, who are the buyers? Who are we going to call on? What's the customer need? What probing questions will I ask them? And this is where doing interactive facilitated training, like you all do, I'm sure well now, is salespeople can help do exercises to come up with this content themselves. Sell them on why, maybe have another salesperson or two get up and give testimonials. Now the rest of them are trusting and paying attention. Then you can do table exercises. Who might you call on? Let them come up with the answers. Salespeople like to learn from other salespeople. Customer customer need. We will probably need to provide that ourselves. Probing questions, let them come up with the probing questions. And then we get into the product overview, which is essential, yes, but not as the only thing and not in the level of detail. What the survey with Colorado said, to back up what we just said, what information do salespeople need? Understand the need or challenge. And remember, half of new products fail because during the product development process, we did not really understand the customer need or challenge, or think there was one, and did not measure it and validate it. We need to know who are we going to call on? What's their title? What is their job description? What are their pain points? Then, of course, we need, the 45% said, the clear description of the offer with the features and benefits and whatnot, probing questions, and then a success case study with the return on investment. What better way to demonstrate the product is good to a prospect than by showing, hey, here's what it did for a customer in a similar set of circumstances as yours. If you forget this, the one thing to remember on the type of content to deliver and in what sequence is to map the training content to the actual steps your salespeople will need to take. Most companies have something. The big companies, the IBMs of the world, have this pages and pages down to the last detail. Some of my big company clients, but less sophisticated, had me come in and map out a process for them. That's one of the key things successful sales organizations do, is they have a standard sales process. Taking it to the next level, if you don't know the sales process, this is the slide I will send later, and you might want to grab a screenshot. This is the template I use with my clients, more or less. I customize it somewhat. Starts with why, then we deliver a success story. A salesperson gets up, or the product manager, and describes how this product worked for somebody else. Not always possible when the product is brand new, but there's probably some evidence available that came out during the product development phase as to who we spoke to, what they said, how they would use this. Again, we're selling the seller here. We're getting that salesperson to overcome his or her skepticism, his or her fear of looking stupid. Now their juices are flowing and they're thinking, okay, I'm willing to take a chance with my current customer base to try this. All right, now I'm listening. And then we go through, all right, target companies, who am I going to call on? What's the title of the buyer? What sort of corporate business objectives does this organization have that this product or service addresses? So it's not just that tactical need, it's what are the corporation's overall yearly objectives that this will tap into, because that will get the buyers really paying attention. If this will move the needle for the CEO and his or her overall objectives, then the prospects, the potential buyers, are going to be paying a lot more attention to what the salespeople have to say. Then we want to know the customer need. What's their pain? What is that buyer experiencing? What is their persona? What keeps them awake at night? What are their hopes and fears? Because buying is an emotional decision. People buy with emotion and then justify their purchases with logic. So we want to know what's the pain and how do we tap into that in an ethical, non-manipulative way to understand what's going to get them to pay attention. And we do that often through good probing questions. We might want to provide some conversational insights. That's one of the key trends in sales over the last 15 years. We don't just go in, we salespeople, and say, hey, what's your job? What do you do? What keeps you up at night? We want to go in as trusted advisors, and that means coming in with some insights that we might want to share with them. Much like, hopefully out of this webinar, you've gotten a couple of tips you can use in your business to approach your client base, internal or external, with some conversational insights, some intelligence. Then we want the product description. Having a picture, some sort of infographic is helpful. A case study demonstrating the return on investment, how somebody in a similar situation used this information, what objections might come up and how might we address them. Who's the competition? How do we position ourselves against them? Not putting down the competition, but having an awareness of what their strengths are versus ours, and how can we have a conversation to make us look better to the prospect. What sister solutions? One of the other trends that I see with a lot of my clients is salespeople tend to go in with just a few probing questions, and at the first sign of life, of interest from the buyer, they'll say, "Oh, I've got a product just for you," rather than staying calm, asking more questions, and potentially expanding that opportunity. So, in other words, what other products within our company might be good to include in that overall bundled solution? And then finally, what sales tools are available? Where do the salespeople go to find the cheat sheets and the information? Maybe watch a video, or get the scripts that we've written out, or find the probing questions that we came up in the actual interactive training question. So we want to package the training in a sales-friendly way. Simple, clear. You notice here, this is a job aid put together for one of my clients with, gosh, 23 different offerings in finance programs. This was the decision tree to help the salespeople figure out what to offer when. We call those battle cards, sales playbooks, conversation guides, cheat sheet, tip sheets. Use the language that your sales force uses. I'm going to talk about speaking their language in a minute. It's my final comment coming up. Love this quote from Alfred Hitchcock: "Drama, so making an impact, is life with the dull bits cut out." You probably are doing this as learning professionals when you're developing training. It's not about packing more in. It's taking that entire look of what potential content our audience needs to know, and then pulling out the non-essential. I think Bob Pike said, give them in the interactive workshops the must know. Then there's the nice to know, maybe that's a reference tool, and then there's where to go. Where do they go to find that other information? Okay, let's do a polling question number 3 as we just tee up our last section, and then we'll go to my last thought and then Q&A. Got about 11 minutes here, but we want to get to Q&A first. What is the best delivery method for a breakthrough product? So this is just not a new tire, it's a whole tire system as an example. So something that's completely different, a breakthrough product. Is it face-to-face at a regional or district sales meeting? A live conference call? Is it a virtual instructor-led session? Face-to-face global sales event, which Orlando is, I think, the world's capital for doing those. Or is it an e-learning course? So what's the best delivery method? How do you feel about that? And then we'll go to the Colorado survey.
All right, to let you guys know, we have a few more minutes left. Remember, you could use the chat feature to drop any questions in. If you have any questions for Roger, we do have a few more minutes until the end, and we will be putting a survey out to let you know, for you to give feedback on how today went. So don't forget, drop your questions in. Make sure everyone could see it in the chat window. There's a little drop-down arrow that allows you to share it to everybody. All right, and I think we are ready to end our poll. So let's see our results.
All right, face-to-face global sales event got the most votes at 67%. Face-to-face regional or district sales meeting, 33%. I have seen both done effectively. Let's see what the 250 people said out of Colorado. they gave the face-to-face, the regional or district sales meeting most of the votes versus the global sales event. So for example, I did a road show with one of my clients. It was the Fall City Tour. They could have had a global event. They chose a regional event because they wanted just a little more intimacy, a little more interactivity, a little more networking. So that was one of the reasons they chose that over the global event. So the survey folks, the 250 sales leaders, product leaders, learning folks said, number one is that medium-sized medium-sized meeting. What about an extension? Similar results. The regional or district sales meeting still came at quite up on top. The surprise to me was they didn't want an e-learning course. That came in lower on the list than I thought. In fact, it did not even make the extension list, which I was surprised about. I've seen e-learning used effectively as a warm-up to a regional or global event, just so that learning, as you know, is happening a little bit over time instead of sheep dipping, as we call it, all at once. How to make the content more consumable. This is L&D 101. Make it interactive. We talked about including sales stories, role play. I was surprised that salespeople actually volunteered to do role plays. It's like ripping off the Band-Aid. They know it hurts. It's not their favorite activity, but it does work. Let's go to a question from Todd. Thank you, Todd. Love the presentation. It seems simple and obvious. So why do you think more companies aren't following this? Yeah, as learning professionals, that was one of my concerns doing this. You all know even more than I do about developing really good training. You've got master's degrees in this. I've just done it a long time, and I've got the creative background. It baffles me. I think it baffles me that this problem still exists. I think it's because our clients, in this case, the sales leaders, don't understand learning and development like we do. And we need to go in and explain them in hard dollars what impact implementing a few changes can make to their bottom line. I think another reason is, and I observe this firsthand, when I'm in the room with the sales leaders and the top salespeople, like having a conference call, or having what could be a conference call, but having a meeting as we plan the training, and I certainly saw this in one of my prior companies, when a non-salesperson comes in, somebody from human resources, even learning and development, there's skepticism of what we on the outside say. And I'm going to go to my last slide here. Okay, this is the key. This is the key right here. Part of it, because we're not on the team, we haven't salespeople measure, we sort of smell out other people based on, have they been in sales? Are they a friend of sales? This is unspoken, but this is what I've observed. And one of the turnoffs, if you will, is the people who have not been accepted in the inner sales circle don't speak the language. If you look over on the right, this is L&D speak. We talk about learning objectives. How many participants will be in the workshop? Then we go through the Kirkpatrick level 4. We use the term job aid. I have seen VPs of global sales, after the person who used language like this leave the room, I've seen them roll their eyes. It's not fair. It's not right. It's just the way it is. And I think, Todd, to your question, that is one of the reasons. So we want to start using sales speak to get a seat at the table. What are the financial targets with this new offering? How many salespeople are you looking at training? what specific results are you looking for? Let's use, I'll put together a playbook for you, not I will put together a job aid for you. See the difference? That's just one way. Let's go to another question. Todd, thank you for that. Here's from Jennifer. How would you just adjust any of the training template for a large remote field sales team that will not be coming in for a live in-person training? Or would you keep it the same? I'd keep it exactly the same. Keep it exactly the same. Just simplify and net it out. As we know, when we're creating training, we go from rough drafts, synthesizing, simplifying. So that's the key. Thank you for that, Jennifer. I'd keep it exactly the same.
Great.
But you might want to have one overall, let's say you've got a PowerPoint with those 14 things, 14 slides to be delivered or read, but then have a summary card, a job aid that we will now call a playbook or one of the other terms that I used earlier. Anyway, final wrap up. Thank you.
Just want to let everybody know I am dropping in the chat window right now the survey based on today's webinar. If you could answer that, it's a very quick survey. Also in the chat window, if you scroll up, I had dropped another link. I apologize. I put the incorrect link earlier for the ATD member survey, that one question one I showed you at the beginning. So if you scroll up a little bit, you'll actually find the correct link for that. Before we wrap up with Roger, if anyone else has any other questions that they'd like to drop in the chat window, or feel free to come off the mic and you could just ask it now.
Yep, or shoot me an email afterwards. And oopsie daisies, there's my screen share. Ah, goodness gracious.
And just so you know, as members, we do put these recorded webinars on the website. So you do have access to see this after the recording is done. And hopefully Roger can share this slide deck with us so we could also put that with the recording. Does that work for you, Roger?
Yeah, because of the University of Colorado's has to be sworn not to send out preliminary results, I will send out the few key slides without the percentages.
That works.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense. That works.
Yeah, I am now trying to get this other slide up, but we have had an interesting button switch here. Anyway, feel free to connect on LinkedIn, Roger Grannis. And you know what, I'm gonna just type my email, if I may, in here.
Also, Jennifer's asking a question, when will results be in and will they be shared?
Yes, the results will be available. I will get them from Colorado mid-June. I'm gonna need a week or so to just, make them a little more user-friendly because the pages and pages of detail. But yes, they will be available, and please send me an email saying I would like the results when they're available, and I'll make sure you get those.
Okay, Roger, I'm just going to share it with the group. I don't think it was shared publicly, so I'm just going to share it with the group right now. So there's Roger's email if you'd like to email him. And I do want to keep to time, so we are going to wrap it up now. Thank you so much for joining us, Roger. It's been a pleasure, and thank you to everyone at the chapter for joining us as well. And I hope everybody has a wonderful day.
And thanks again to you, Lisa Ann, and to Alex for making this happen. And thanks for listening. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care.